Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond, broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Wherever you call home, we are there. In favorite places, large spaces, for many homes we have coverage that fits the way you live. And with our home systems protection, you can cover major home appliances and more. We cover more type of homes than ever. Get the coverage you and your family deserves. For a free no obligation quote, visit us online or simply give us a call.
Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Professor Buitron. I'm here with Grandmaster Richard Hackworth, and we're touching base on an issue that has always been around, but you can see it a lot more now. It's people that start teaching prematurely in the martial art realm, and what that causes to people that are trying to take it seriously. How are we doing today, my brother? You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, and I'm so happy to be here with you and your listeners. It's always a pleasure, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's a pleasure having you, and also listening to somebody that's been around the martial arts for a long time and understands not only the business sense of it, but also the martial essence of it, and that's very important.
Yeah, there's so much that goes on with people that want to become instructors, and they have a desire to be a teacher, but they don't seem to have the desire to become qualified. And just because there's no law against it doesn't mean they should be doing it. That would be like somebody going, man, I took boxing for 2 years when I was in elementary school. I really think I should be able to jump in the ring with Mike Tyson, because my local teacher told me that I'm a professional level boxer after 2 years of training in the third and fourth grade. And that's the equivalent of what we have going on in the martial arts community a lot of time. And I was almost the opposite. My instructors were encouraging me to go into the instructor training program and go to these courses. And I didn't feel worthy or qualified or ready. But they kept encouraging me. So I started going. And what I realized was that, well, I felt that way because I had not attended the training yet. But as I went through the courses and I accumulated the knowledge and went through the internship and gained the beginner level experience. And that's why I told people, like, I've been teaching professionally since 1985. But when that happened, the first 2 years under our organization, I was only allowed to teach children because they consider your first 2 years, you have to develop that foundation. Even though you've learned about communicating, how to teach a technique, that you're going to give an explanation, a demonstration, a practical application, and then practice time. But when you go to most schools, what you see is an instructor will explain it, maybe demonstrate it, and then just turn the students loose on each other to figure it out. And that's why the learning process is so poor, because they failed to even explain the technique correctly with a demonstration. And I know my instructors, one of the things I learned was that they would demonstrate it, and then they would turn and demonstrate it from a different angle, and then turn a third time and demonstrate it from another angle, just so you could get a complete view of what's going on. And when I've gone to training where they didn't do that, I realized that, wait a minute, we're missing out on a lot of what we should be understanding just because we didn't get to see it from this angle. And I'm sure you can appreciate that, because not being able to see something from a particular angle, if you're learning how to defend against a knife, is critical, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree most heartily with what you're saying. Um, I encourage my students, those that I see, to go into an a apprentice for to become an instructor. And in Savant, you actually have to do an apprenticeship to become that. You have a technical glove which is called silver, which is probably in fighting terms, probably about a third black in most styles. But what I'm getting at is only because you're a silver glove doesn't mean that you can teach. Period. In Savant, you have to do an apprenticeship for you to start getting those teaching ranks. And here in America, people don't understand that. They think, oh, I just got this, now I can go teach, because of everything else that's been going on in a lot of these martial arts people that are just running out there. They get a black belt or they buy a certificate online. Now you start seeing that, become an instructor. Here's 8 videos, and here's your black belt, here's your certificate, and $599, and here's your videos and your DVDs, and go out and conquer the world. And a lot of individuals get that. And I get it. I mean, I get the business sense of it. I understand where it's at, but morally, I'd rather just not do that. I've never done that. I've seen the disaster of many that have, and all of a sudden reality strikes, and all of a sudden it's a totally different entity. Had an individual that was a 4th-degree black belt, and I hate to say this, but he went up against his ex brother-in-law, which was much younger than him, and basically got pummeled. What did it serve you? You had a school here, and your school went down because of that. Understand what I'm saying? So when everybody found out that he got his rear end handed to him by a 17-year-old, the people in the school left. And people say, no, it doesn't happen. It's happened. You just saw it. So why did it happen? Were they not allowed to? How can I put it? Were they allowed to get ranked that they shouldn't have gotten? Were they missing out on learning the applications? Was it ego? What is it? Or is it everything altogether? It's pretty sad though, but I understand with what you're saying, because you see it all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And real quick, I just want to thank everybody that's watching the show. And if we say something that you agree with or disagree with us, please share it in the comments. We'd like to know your thoughts. And as far as experience goes, I think that it's very undervalued that all these false promotions happen out of ego, because people want to claim the title and the position, even though they know they haven't earned it. And I see this all the time. And unfortunately, due to greed of people running different federations or whatever, or even school owners willing to promote people to ranks they didn't earn in exchange for the black belt testing fee. And then they don't even test them, so there's that. And the problem is, eventually, as an individual, you're going to feel like a phony. You're going to feel what they call imposter syndrome, because you don't know what you're supposed to for the rank that you're claiming. And what's interesting is those guys, even though they're feeling imposter syndrome, they want to reaffirm their expertise by being trash talkers on the internet. They're out here in different internet forums talking down about people who are qualified and are much better than they are. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. I always looked up to and admired the people who had more skills than me, had more experience than me, because those are the people that I can learn from. That it's a beneficial relationship, and hopefully they'll get something in return out of me that's mutually beneficial, so it's not one-sided. But at the same time, it just shows that people have fallen off the path. So I'm going to go over the 4 stages of the path in general for a person who's going to be a lifelong martial artist. So you start off as the protected. you have zero skills. Maybe you're a little kid or whatever. So your parents, your teachers, your aunts and uncles, all those people, all those adults look out for you and protect you. Okay. Then the next level is the guardian. You started learning some skills from those people or through formal training. And now you can protect yourself and others, like your friends and family. And then after that, you have the warrior. And in our modern time, the warrior class or the warrior stage of this are the competitors, the people that are testing their skill against others. And
Mhm.
it might not be in street fights or whatever, but it's an actual test of their skills against another person. And the fourth level is the scholar, the person who's gone through the warrior phase. Now they've accumulated these decades of knowledge and experience, and they're the ones that are supposed to pass that knowledge on to the next generation. Well, what we've had going on in the martial arts community for the last 40 or 50 years, because of the greed, is people who jump from the guardian phase where they're starting to learn some skills all the way to the scholar phase. They have zero time and experience as a competitor or having experienced any real fights. And so what they're doing is they're sharing what I call theory and conjecture. And the thing is, once they ring that bell, or once somebody approaches you by your car asking for your wallet, you need more than theory and conjecture to make it through that experience. And so, like I said, people are doing themselves a disservice. And every penny of tuition they collect from a student, when they're teaching things that they have never experienced working in an actual situation, is stolen money. Absolutely stolen money. And you hear about it all the time. I'm sure you've heard of people that they were a black belt and in high school they got their butt kicked by somebody with zero training, but somebody who'd been in a couple of real fights before. So they knew what it felt like to get hit. Well, if you're a black belt and you've never experienced what it is to get punched in the face or in the throat and recover from that, kicked in the groin and recover from that, you're not going to fare well in a fight, even against somebody with less experience and less knowledge or less techniques. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that very well, but
No, I'm agreeing with you because I've said this lifelong, and you see that. And, one time I had taken some boxers. We used to do a lot of competitive boxing. And one of the coaches from cut and thrust in the Houston area, we were talking, and he goes, "Hey, do you mind being my second?" And I said, "Sure, no worry about it." And no, and I don't. My second didn't come. I got a boxer coming up. Do you mind going? I go, "No worry about it. I'll help you out." So I went up with him in the corner, older gentleman. He passed away now, and he was fighting another boxer. His boxer won, very talented, and this was in amateurs. This was in the Texas Championships. I was out of College Station. And he helped me on my corners when I was there because I basically didn't have anybody. I had my other guys over there. I'll make them go through the coaches process to help me. And he goes, "Where'd you learn boxing?" And I go, "From my uncle." And I told him the stories and I told him everything else. And he goes, "There's a lot of people here that you're going to see in these competitions that they themselves never were in the ring. They themselves never helped out in the cornering. They themselves never took a person from starting a jab to make them champions." Because you have a lot of trainers that already grabbed champions, but they never taught them, and they continued taking them to places where they become more better champions. And I started analyzing what he was saying, and he goes, when I saw you come in and I saw your boxers and the way you were taking care of them on the side of the ring, you were doing both the second's job and you were coaching them. You were doing it by yourself. You didn't have somebody else with you." He goes, and that to me taught me that you knew what the ring's all about. That's why I asked you to help me out. And he goes, "Never be impressed with a club that has mirrors and a club that's real clean. Be impressed with the one that has sweat, and every time you go up in the ring, every so often you'll see a couple of drops of blood painted on the mat. I started laughing, and he goes, "Because that's the difference between which is which school, and
Yeah,
that to
that's a
me,
very valid point. And that's like the point I was trying to make is that there are certain things that you can only gain from experience.
absolutely,
And I'll give you an example. You can read as many books as you want about the game of billiards, but until you get in front of a table with a stick, hitting those balls, you're not going to get any good at it. It takes that interaction, that active part, to master the skill. You can
that's
understand it, you can appreciate it, but until you physically do it, you're not going to be able to master it. And then as far as the journey goes, I see so many people that, they try to justify their rank by saying that, well, look, I'm a grandmaster because I can do this. I'm like, well, that's a green belt level skill. So yeah, I understand. Yeah, you're lucky, you're healthy, you're 60 years old, and you can do a head level side kick. That's great, but that's not a grandmaster level skill. It's not even a black belt level skill, and you're bragging about it. Or even worse yet, are the guys who are so failed in their personal life that they're still competing in their 60s to try to prove that they are somebody. And I know that when I was like when I was training in Korea or even in Japan, once you reached master level, you had to move on to the next level, and that's training the people under you. So, but here you got people who are still trying to prove themselves, and they're only trying to prove themselves because they damn well know that they didn't deserve that fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh stripe on their black belt at all. And to me, it's just sad that they've fallen off track. They're not understanding the benefits of going through the rest of the journey to reach the level of scholar. They're not doing the studying and research that they should be doing, fine tuning of things. And I mean, and the lack of knowledge and experience is just shocking. And I'll give you an example. And this was on me, but for years, people kept telling me, you should write a book. You should write a book. And then people started hiring me to write books for them that they were publishing under their name. And I used to get a kick online out of seeing my haters brag about having bought a book that I wrote, but was published under somebody else's name, not knowing that I was the ghostwriter. And I'm like, yeah, this is the same guy that was talking trash about me in one of the martial arts groups a couple of weeks ago, but now he's bragging about owning a book that I wrote. And then, on your end, what are you, close to 20 books now? I mean, you're a prolific
uh,
writer.
we have one right now that's coming out. It's out in publishing. It should be here. It's the Symphony of Pugilism Under the Seven Flags, which is a history of boxing and here in South Texas and Laredo specifically, from the first world champion, which was a battling Shaw in the 30s to now, and it's interesting. But yeah, there'll be 17 books, correct? A lot of them were manuals for the folks of the International Guild of Dancers Savant to understand what they need for per level, plus the techniques that were made in each one. And there were history books and several stuff like that. We had a compendium that was 1,000 pages long. So some still out there. We have a couple of them. I did one more of our for what's the difference? I call it from crew to tribe. What's the difference between the arts and what has made the arts grow? And it's that
And
community.
that's an excellent book, by the way. I have that book.
Yeah, thanks.
I highly recommend it.
And that book basically, you can talk about it. Basically teaches you how to build.
Yeah. And it's building from within. It's not slick salesy marketing gimmicks. It's building a culture in your school that attracts people. And that's where true success comes from. because I think that schools misunderstand success. If you have 30, 40, 50 people that are into the culture, it's part of their daily lives, you are blessed. But these guys are out there talking about, I have 200 students. I'm like, yes, you have 200 people that show up, and 175 of those are going to quit this year, and you're going to replace them with 175 other people that are not going to make the martial arts a part of their lifestyle. They are not going to be on the journey. So, and a lot of those instructors just keep selling them belts to keep them motivated to come. But what they fail to understand is that if you've sold somebody ranks all the way to black belt and they didn't acquire the skills, they're a fraud and you're a thief, because they did not get what they were supposed to get and did not earn it, which, like I said, makes the instructor a thief and the student a fraud, because they know inside that they can't fight, And I know people get mad at me for being this brutally honest about it, but I've got the scars from this. I have a crooked smile because my jaw's been broke twice in real fights, and I still won the fight with a broken jaw. I got pieces missing out this year on this side, more pieces here, where I had a guy bite parts of my ear off, two different guys. And like when it happened, I was so mad at the end of the fight. I'm like, so what is this guy, like friends with the other guy that chewed my left ear 6 months ago? And but those things, people don't get. And they're like, Richard's got droopy looking eyes. Yeah, because Richard's had eyes swollen shut from full contact matches. I wasn't out there dancing at what you called a world championships for a trophy. I was in actual matches, real street fights.
You said what you're saying now. I interviewed, for those people checking out our podcast, the previous episode. I interviewed a master of Taekwondo from the Laredo area who's been around Texas for the longest time. I knew him since I was a kid, and he was. If I was 11, he must have been 19, going on 20. Okay, and he was very, very predominant in the Taekwondo, karate, point fighting systems for many, many years. He had a school here from the 90s onward. His school closed. He still teaches privates. And we're talking just that. And he mentioned, Paul, between us, we know the students of basically every instructor has been around for the longest time. Now we're getting people that are opening up schools that nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows where they got ranked. The same thing. And I say this, reputation followed you. And reputation is going to follow you no matter where you are, whether you're a good instructor, a bad instructor, a good fighter, a bad fighter. Are your students good fighters, not good fighters? Can they take care of business in the street, or they get their asses whipped in the street? That reputation you're going to build upon. And, I don't take mine to karate tournaments. I learned a long time ago karate tournaments was more of a favoritism of who's who and who's what and everything else that goes in there. So you basically had to knock out the person to realize. And then I fought in the ring, and I got out of the ring. I took many, many boxers and saboteurs inside the ring and made many champions. So and I basically left due to the fact that you need people that have discipline to become athletes. Once you go into the competition levels, you have to become an athlete. A lot of people don't want to do that. So if that means that you're going to be, I used to train people at 4:00 in the morning because people couldn't, they were working nights. And I used to tell them, you're in our fight team. You're part of our team. You're going to be here at 4:00 every morning to 6:00. And then you guys can go to work and do whatever you want. But I'm not going to, and I learned not to mix competition training with regular class time, because you lose a lot of students because they're not athletes. A lot of people are doing it to save themselves, to better themselves, and it's beautiful. It's great. But once you step into the ring, once you step into whether it's point karate or what have you, you have to train like an athlete. And if you don't, that's when people get mad because they lost, you cheated. No, the person is that one person trains more than the other. So what I'm getting at is the reputation that you make is always going to follow you. If you get guys that go to a certain school and in high school they're getting their rear ends handed to them, and they go to Joe Blow's Taekwondo school or Joe Blow's Karate Academy or whatever, that's the type of individuals that are going to go there. Understand? And in today's world, I told them things changed. When I opened up in the 90s, and I know you were around before that, fathers used to call and say, I want you to teach my son or daughter how to fight. The words how to fight. Mm-hmm. It transversed into my son is getting bullied, my daughter's getting bullied in mid 2000s to about 2013. Now they call and just say, how much is it? But between that time frame, you had moms start calling, not even dads. Moms would call up and say, I need for you to teach my son or daughter because they have nothing better to do. Nothing better to do. Why don't you tell them to go cut grass or throw out the trash or clean their room or what have you? So things have changed. So I don't know. I see your point, and that's what's happened because of that. Have we, as martial artists, allowed that to happen? Have we, as teachers, go lenient and just give out rank because of money? And if that's the case, then that reputation will follow you.
Well, I think that that's an important thing to differentiate is that I tell people in the martial arts, there are two different worlds. You have the martial arts community, which are highly skilled, highly experienced martial arts teachers with decades of experience like ourselves. And then you have what I call the McDojo industry, where all they're doing is pumping kids through their facility in exchange for cash because the parents want to be able to get rid of their kid a few hours a week. And they want to be able to claim that, well, I put them in karate so they can protect themselves, or I did this. No, honestly, most of those moms are just trying to get rid of the kid for a few hours a week so they can go get their mani-pedis without a kid underfoot. And I'm pretty honest about poor parenting these days too. But one of the things that really gets to me as far as like these so-called grandmasters talking about, oh, well, I just won this tournament. I'm like, okay, listen, pal. So you're 60 years old. There's two, maybe three other life failures in your division, all out there trying to masturbate their ego for a plastic trophy. That is not an accomplishment for a 60-year-old. And it doesn't happen in any other field. Let me ask you something, Professor. If there was somebody who had a PhD in English literature and they were out there in the world entering middle school spelling bees and bragging about their victories, the community would laugh at them. They'd say there's something wrong with this person. They're sick in the head. But that's the equivalent of what's going on. You have guys that are claiming to be PhD levels in martial arts, grandmasters, that are out there competing in middle school level activities. And it's shameful. It is embarrassing. And now you're in Laredo, right? So I don't know if there's a lot of that goes on in Laredo, but like I'm in Orlando, Florida. And sometimes when I meet people at international martial arts events, I'm embarrassed to tell them I'm from Florida because our state is known for that kind of stuff. And so,
yeah. We used to have kids that are, capoeira doesn't have black belts, and it takes a long time to start getting cords in capoeira and so on and so forth. Savate doesn't have black belts, and you have to be 8 years old to be able to do savate because it's part of the Department of Licensing and Regulation. You have to be 8 to do boxing and this and wrestling. But even though you have people teaching them at 2 years old, and so you don't have a black belt in savate. Okay, there is such a thing as a black sash, which just means that you're a student. Okay, but the colored glove differentiates the rank, and the sash differentiates your status of where you're at. Understand? Because Savate is very much a brigade system. Now, Silver Glove, you have to be 18 years old to have it. Period. And you need 3 professors to test one.
Right.
Period. You can't make a Silver Glove without 3 professors. Right? So what occurs is you have a lot of people that bring their kids here. You know, Blue Glove's the first level. Kids are going there. They've been around 3-4 years or 6 months. Okay. All of a sudden, the mom gets mad because they realize that they're never going to get a black belt, and they go stick them in a couple of schools here in Laredo, and within 90 days, that kid's already wearing a black belt. Okay.
Yes.
And, you know, I had one kid that was with us for several years, had just started Savate. He had gotten a blue glove in Savate, but he had started Kempo and he was doing capoeira when he was much younger. Fabulous kid. Great technique. It was going to be 10 going on 11. He had started with us when he was 6 years old. He was with us for 4 years. Tremendous kid. Great attitude. The mom came in and says, my nephew already got a black belt and he's only been doing it for 6 months at so-and-so school. I go, great. When it's in front of everybody, she started kind of raising her voice. When is my son going to become a black belt? I go, in Kempo, when he's 17 years old. He'll be a very great individual by then. So in Savate, he's not going to get a black belt. And I go, no, because there's none. How about in capoeira? But there's none either. You go, you have to understand.
It's a skill-based art. And that's the thing that people don't understand. And I've had parents come in, they're like, well, how long will it take my child to get the black belt? And I said, well, a big part of this is you making the commitment to bring him 3 times a week, even on the days he doesn't feel like doing it, because you're the parent. And then on top of that, you're looking at about 4 years to get to first degree black belt. I'm like, what, 4 years? Well, this other place told me 1 year. And I'm like, well, yeah, in 1 year, they're going to be wearing a black belt. But honestly, it's going to take another 3 years before they're carrying black belt level skills with them. So what they're wearing and what skills they have aren't going to coincide at a school like that. And if your concern is your child's health and safety, then you want to make sure that they go through a 4-year program. Can you imagine somebody saying, well, look, at this university down the street, you can get your master's degree in 16 months instead of 4 years to a bachelor's and another 2 years to the master's. In just 16 months, you can go through all that. Not possible. You know, you should leave that place as quickly as possible and protect yourself, protect your wallet, and protect your child from those environments. And then back to the thing about instructors not being ready, a lot of them fail to realize that there's a whole lot, you know, on this journey of being a martial artist that's leadership training. And part of leadership training is how to manage students, parents, the school, the marketing. That's not sales. That's leadership. I don't sell martial arts school memberships. I help people become martial artists. They just happen to pay tuition at the facility I'm teaching out of. There's a huge difference. Now, there are a lot of places out there that do sell martial arts memberships because it's simply a payment plan to particular colored belts. Whereas my school, my classes are an educational environment and opportunity. And
you're so correct.
Yeah.
You're correct. And that's what happens is the fact that people are searching for an illusion. It's ego, stroking their egos. Going back to the story I was telling you, this kid left. Granted, he was all over social media with with a black belt immediately when he got over there to that other school. But I knew the school that they had taken to. The instructors liked to smoke dope. Some of the others used to smoke dope. They ran their school like a little gangbanging school. Well, guess what happened to this kid? Went down the road of perdition. Later on in time, I get a call by a judge, which is a dear friend of mine, tell me, hey, their parents are here and they said that this is one of your students. One of my students. I haven't seen him since he was 9 going on 10. He left when I was 10. He's been that other schools for the last 7 years. Now they're saying that I'm the one. They're using my name because they know that you and I are very good friends. We're compadres. You know what I'm saying? I said, that ain't going to happen. Had a long talk with the parents. And I said, listen, more than likely, if he would have stuck with us here, he would not be in this nonsense that he's in. And I keep telling people this, you are who you hang with. And if you have people in your school that are bad elements, they can have black belts left and right. But if they're bad elements, the kids in that school are going to become bad elements. If they're hell raisers, they're going to be out there hell raising. If they're doing shenanigans, they're going to be doing shenanigans. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. And I think that I tell a lot of people that when you're looking for a place to take your child, you want to look for what I call the 3 Ps: the promise, the proof, and the plan. Most places only have a promise because there's no proof. And what I mean by proof is, how long has this person been teaching?
Yes.
And that's a good indicator. That's the proof that they've been doing this for a significant amount of time. They have the skill and the knowledge to pass on. And then the plan, is the plan a particular type of training over a particular period of time? It should be. If the plan is simply a payment plan, promising to deliver you a new color belt every so many months, that's the wrong plan. So you have to make sure that you're getting, the right promise, checking for the proof, and getting a plan that's an actual training and education plan, not just a payment plan. And I hope that I made that clear. But that's what it is.
Hopefully folks can understand what we're talking about and grasping. Not only happens in martial arts, it happens in fitness, it happens in everywhere else. Everybody right now is in the fitness industry. Everybody in the fitness industry wants to teach boxing because somebody came out there, and it's all the disservice. And that unfortunately, that's what's happening in this world. It's that microwavable American mentality that I paid you money, so I better get this in result. And I go, no, your result comes with your training. Some people understand that, some people don't. And unfortunately, for a long time, martial arts schools have gotten a bad rap because of those instructors. They're more abundant. So do like the old training, the old ways. Ask people that have been around, where are you taking my son? Where would you want me to go learn? That's where you're going to find out who's who, who's where, who's doing what. And also be careful, because there's a lot of people out there teaching an MMA type mentality, and they themselves have never even gotten a yellow belt in any school, and out there teaching people to go in the ring, and you're going to get people hurt. Research who you're with and who's what.
Well, yeah, you make a very good point there. And the MMA industry, there's like a lot of the competitors I have huge respect for. They dedicate themselves to their training like nobody you've ever seen. And but on the other end of that is like the promoters and the sleaziness of how they promote the fights, and like human cockfights and whatever. And what really bothers me is that people are fooled by that. And I say that unfortunately because of it, because of the promoters, not the competitors, but because of the promoters, MMA attracts the lowest level of human beings from our community and society. It is, to the martial arts industry, what pornography is to the film industry. And I make no apologies for saying it that way. And like I said, don't anybody misunderstand that. I have every bit of respect for the athletes who train and dedicate themselves to that and put their reputation and their health on the line to compete at that level in under those rules. So I just want people to be careful of that because I know it's kind of hot for people to get into jujitsu and MMA right now. And then I just saw the other day an article where a jujitsu instructor, on like the first week this kid's in class, he broke his neck. The instructor broke the student's neck. And that student's going to be paralyzed the rest of their lives.
Yep.
And so, like I said, that's where the difference comes in with experience in teaching. And unfortunately, there's no credible body for certification in MMA. It just doesn't exist because it's a competitive format, not an instructional one.
Absolutely. You know, the hard reality is there's a lot of great MMA schools and boxing studios and kickboxing schools that have been around for a long time now. MMA has been around now, I would say now since the 90s to now, but you have a lot of schools in the last 20 years that have perfected that. Search those out, search those individuals. If you have a school they're changing the sign outside because of a fad.
Right.
Back in the 80s, there were a Shotokan school. I'm just throwing out Shotokan name out there, not making fun of Shotokan. And all of a sudden, the ninja schools came out there. All of a sudden, they have a ninja guy with a Shotokan on the bottom, karate. And all of a sudden, they put something Olympic on the side because it was more Olympic. All of a sudden, in the 90s, that sign, all of a sudden, the ninjutsu was gone, but Jeet Kune Do was up there because now the fad of Jeet Kune Do was up there. And all of a sudden, Muay Thai changed because Muay Thai was a fad that was around for a long time, and all of a sudden now that school has MMA on it. People tell me,
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And as far as like what goes on in some of those schools, I appreciate you bringing up those points. If anybody watching has had a bad experience at one of those types of schools, share it in the comments. Let us know what it was. And on the other end of that, if you were fortunate enough to train with a really good instructor, share that in the comments. Give your instructor some praise because they deserve it.
there's
And
a lot of great instructors out there. Don't get us wrong, people. There's a lot of great instructors out there that have trained, train, and continue training individuals in this path. We're just here more, and I understand the rationale that you have because we're trying to protect people from getting getting ripped off or hurt more than anything else. Money's one thing because we can make money, but getting hurt, giving a false sense of ego, and all of a sudden you go out there and a street punk tears you a new one because you're never ready. But again, I'm going to put this out there. There's a lot of great individuals out there, okay? And everybody has seen that pain because that pain to what you're talking about, what we're seeing, is resonating throughout the United States because I just heard it in the past episode that I did with Master Juan Nava. Exactly the same concerns. And folks, you be careful when you're searching to place. About MMA, about teaching. I got a call this week from a father, very enthusiastic, wanted to put his child inside. He wanted his child already could hit, he could already kick, he could already do this, he could do this. He was and I said, how old is your son? Because, I start kids off and he goes, but I want him to learn MMA. And I go, well, I don't teach MMA. I teach Kempo, I teach Capoeira, I teach Savate. We teach Savate. If you guys want to come and train, check those classes out, I'll give you the days. Go, so you don't teach MMA? And I was trying to explain to him, and I said, well, by the way, how old is your son? He goes, he's going to be 3 years old. And I go, let your child be a kid. Okay? 3 years old. I don't know of a school here in Laredo that's going to pick it. Well, there's a school that already teaches MMA at 3 years old. Give me their number. I will call them for you to get registered on, please. Because if there is a school out there teaching kids at 3 years of age, all you're doing is you're a you're going to get somebody hurt. And you're ripping people's money off. And please, that's not the time. And parents, if you want your child at 3 years old to go into martial arts, that you're playing on your childhood dreams, and that should
Yeah.
not be.
And to me, that's child abuse. How are you
Yeah.
going to feel when your 3-year-old gets his elbow hyperextended at class because their bone plates haven't developed yet, things like that. But yeah, it's really a tough world out there. And I know it's about time for us to wrap things up, but I just wanted to say in closing that, like I said, once again, be sure to share with us where you're from. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe. And for those instructors that are watching, I'm going to recommend this. If you want to improve your class, make sure you add a mat chat. And a mat chat is just at the end of class, we wrap things up with a short talk about the philosophy or some training aspect that helps enhance the person's knowledge beyond just the physical training, beyond kicking and punching. And a good example is to go through this YouTube channel and look for the videos where part of the title is "It Is What It Is." Those are some of my favorite videos. And if you watch, the topics and conversations that Professor Buitron's having in those videos, it's going to make you understand what being a martial artist is all about and give you some catchphrases and things to remember to share with your own students, because it's honestly classic advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, number one, folks, I want to thank you all for watching. My brother, thank you again for letting us know exactly the issues that are out there, because these are issues that need to be talked about. This dialogue needs to be enforced. And it's not jealousy with people making money. We want you all to make a lot of money and be very, very happy. And a lot of martial artists out there are struggling. A lot of people that know a lot of it's just hard. And with the times and since COVID to now, things have changed. But look at yourself and remember why you did the martial arts, why you took this class or whatnot, or what other class, and improve on that. And if you're teaching, help your students improve. That's the only thing I could say. So I'll leave you all with it. You all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all. Until next time, much peace.
Thank you so much for watching.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.